What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Pop Culture Cast. So we're going to be talking about the M3GAN review today, and also welcome to 2023, everybody. We made it. We made it to the new year.
But we made it.
Yeah, there we go. Before we get into the review, I also just want to do the nice little quick check-in. Caleb, how you doing? How's 2023 checking out for you so far, brother?
It's amazing, man. Landed the job, like making improvements in my life. Like I'm feeling 110, pushing 200.
Man. Perfect. That's what I like to hear. There we go. But yeah, 2023, man, this is going to be our year. I already feel it. But to make sure that comes true, I want you guys to like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, share the video, make some TikToks of us. I don't know. Do some we need some help. But anyway, get into this review. M3GAN, this movie dropped on what, January 9th? Is that when it dropped?
I think so. Yeah, 9th or the 8th, something like that.
There we go. That movie has an hour and 42-minute runtime. It was directed by Gerard Johnstone, written by Akela Cooper and James Wan, and starring Allison Williams as Gemma, Violet McGraw as Katie, Ronnie Chang as David, and Amy Donald and Jenna Davis as M3GAN, and many more behind the production. The synopsis goes: M3GAN is a marvel of artificial intelligence, a lifelike doll that's programmed to be the child's greatest companion as a parent's greatest ally. Designed by Gemma, a brilliant roboticist, M3GAN can listen, watch, and learn as it plays the role of a friend and teacher, playmate, and protector. When Gemma becomes the unexpected caretaker of her 8-year-old niece, she decides to give the girl a M3GAN prototype, a decision that leads to unimaginable consequences. A little bit more general info: the movie had a $12 million budget, and within this opening weekend, the movie made about $30 million. So let's expect a sequel, right? So before we get into our general thoughts, I want to do, the classic Pop Culture Cast rating. If you guys do not know, the Pop Culture Cast rating goes as double thumbs up, as this is a perfect movie, highly recommend it. 1 thumbs up as good, thumbs up to the side, or thumbs to the side, this is man. Thumbs down, all right, it's bad. But then double thumbs down, this is absolute garbage. Do not waste your money, waste your time. This is absolutely just not a good time. So Caleb, let's start with you. What's your rating on M3GAN here?
Okay, I want to hold off till the end on the rating because I remember when we did the Black Panther sequel, I came in like, oh, fantastic. And by the end of the conversation, I was like, you know what? Like, Jordan's kind of right. Like, I'm kind of feeling this turn into this over time. Well, maybe as we talk through it, I'll feel, confident and comfortable giving an answer on that. But
okay,
save it to you.
That's fair. All right. Well, let's get into our general thoughts. You want to go first? You want to take the lead on general thoughts?
Okay, first general thought, and you're going to agree with me on this. This movie should have been rated R.
Yes, that was
incredibly limited by that PG-13 rating. Like, it's a horror film, so there's a lack of gore with this that should have been in it. Like, beef it up for the gore fans and the horror fandom, and also having Ronnie Chang. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, right?
I think so. Yeah.
We'll correct it in the future because like he's a pretty powerful comedian. I think he's on SNL or the Trevor Noah show, something like that. And like he's got a lot of talent, and I felt like he was so limited in this film by a PG-13 rating. Because if you see like his stand-up, he uses like slurs, like can get kind of graphic. So they cast this comedian and didn't give him rein to be funnier than what he already was. Like he could have given us a 10 out of 10 performance, but I feel like because of the rating, ultimately like a 7.5.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because like I remember like coming out of the theater, like we saw it with a group of people, and like the first like 2 or 3 comments was like, and is like, yeah, this movie should have been rated R. Like I just don't know how it wasn't. Like I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense that Annabelle Comes Home, I think that was a movie that was rated R, and it just doesn't necessarily feel like rated R, but it just gives the movie that much level of freedom to really go in when it needs to go in. And that's the biggest thing here for M3GAN for me, is like this thing never feels like it really goes in, right? Like going back a little bit earlier though, like the best thing about this movie for me was the pre-rolls, man. Like this is like a side tangent, but like I love seeing the new horror movies coming out with those pre-rolls, like Evil Dead Rise, man, that looks so sick. And then the M. Night Shyamalan movie coming out, you know the title for that thriller?
Let's
see, what is it called?
It's not why do I want to say it's like Cabin in the Woods or something like that, or the Cabin?
It's like Knock at the Cabin or something.
Knock at the Cabin. Yes, that's correct.
That looks so sick, but yeah,
it
like
looks phenomenal.
Exactly, right? Like I'm just like, for some reason that was like my highlight of seeing M3GAN and just seeing these like new movies coming out. But like, other than that, like just going back on the movie, it's just like, yeah, the R rating was definitely needed here. Like, I just don't know why that it wasn't. I'm not sure if that like deters viewers, but I'm not sure when was the last time someone said, hey, blood and guts is something I do not want to see in Western media. So it's like, come on now.
I know, right? Like, I wonder why this decision was made. Like, maybe they didn't think it would hit box office numbers with the existing story and movie. I feel like it would have done well, like probably even better with an R rating.
100%. But yeah, like another point for me not really necessarily liking this movie. Here's the thing, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think this movie is a perfect example of that January filler sort of movies where, like, something just drops in January, it's a hit for that one time, and then you look back at it in December of that same year, be like, oh, this thing did come out early in the year. Let's go ahead and just like, we'll recognize it for this like short little time and then never talk about it again. Now that's perfectly like how I view M3GAN. It just wasn't, it's not something to stay. But yet again, it does seem like it's getting a sequel, so maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know if you just saw that. For the viewers at home, I blew a kiss. That wasn't a Jordan. My wife came in.
Clip that. There we go.
I had to, blow her a kiss.
I didn't even notice that. I didn't notice it. Wow, Caleb. Thanks for blowing me a kiss there, bud. That's crazy.
I think you're so right about it being kind of January filler, because it was a nice way to kickstart, the month of January. Like, I didn't have a bad time with the film whatsoever. I wouldn't say that I was tremendously bored with any part. It's just, I felt like it did lack and could have been more. And that's my only gripe with it. And you know what? That's perfect for, like what you're saying, the January filler. Give us something that, gets our taste buds going, our blood pumping for what's to come this year. And I think you're so spot on. Like, did you feel that way? Because for the viewers at home, me and Jordan saw this film together because I was back in St. Louis for the holidays, and sitting there in the theater watching these trailers come out, I was like, holy cow, is this about to be a stacked first few months? Dude. And for the viewers at home, look at what is coming out between now and the end of April. It's crazy. It feels like the summer like releases are happening early in the year. Like, there's so much to look forward to. I think it's so crazy. We're trying to review M3GAN, but
there's so many, right? There's so many other projects we're just looking forward to more. It's like, bro, we're ready for that. I expect a lot more reviews coming because April literally is so stacked, man. We're definitely going to cover that in our little segment at a further podcast. It's talking about what we're looking forward to, because there's so many things we need to talk about. But yeah, like I think we agree on that being just like a nice little filler just to start the year on, nice little conversation starter kind of movie. But where I do want to give this movie just some knocks is just that I'm not sure if this is a movie that you can really critique, right? Like, I'm not sure what it wants to be. Like, does it want to solidify itself in the horror sort of verse where it's like, oh yeah, M3GAN is this figure what we want you guys to remember, or does it want to be like a silly kind of comedy where you do just kind of forget it, and then when the sequel comes out, it is going to be another comedy? Like, the thing about the movie for me, which we're going to get into a little bit of spoilers, the movie begins and like it's very much so they want you to laugh with the whole like I forgot what those animatronic things were, but like they want you to laugh there. But then after that, the movie never really there's moments where it's like, oh, this is pretty funny, like when she would start playing these songs that will correlate to where like the plot is, like Toy like Toy Story is
Katy Perry's Titanium.
Literally, it's like, dude, like, all right, this is actually pretty funny. But I did kind of like, now that I got some time to simmer down with the movie, it's like I feel like the majority of my laughs in this film was more so the pre-knowledge that this was a comedy. And I guess if I didn't know that going into it, I feel like I would have laughed a little less. But like, I feel like comedy films kind of has that mental thing on you where like you kind of want to laugh so you don't look like you're just not having a good time. So like you just laugh at every little kind of slight funny thing. But yeah, I feel like if this movie really would have dedicated itself to one of those two, or just like, because it's hard to really do that, to really nail both the comedy and the serious element. So like, because I think this movie has some really solid bones to be a staple in horror. Like, but I feel like now that we have what we had, it's going to be really hard to do that in a second coming.
I feel like they also kind of shot themselves in the foot with how they ended it, because it's like, where do you go from here if the doll's body is in a sense destroyed?
Right.
And for the viewers at home, like this is, I would say this is Chucky, but with AI instead of it being a spirit inhabiting a doll.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could say it's gonna, leave a body and go to something else that's not M3GAN, like a different type of doll that's equipped to handle AI. But like the point of where do you go from here is a big question mark.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, Child's Play, the Chucky films, they made like 8 of those films.
Yeah.
And I liked M3GAN just as much as I like Chucky. Like, I feel like, she was like fun to watch. Like, I liked it. I thought this doll, like Killer Doll, was not bad at all. Like a great addition to, I guess you'd say, horror dolls.
Wow.
Better than Annabelle.
That's so interesting. Because like my, I guess the question I was going to bring out of that topic point is just like going back, like I would love to talk to someone that was like in that presence of when Child's Play was coming out. Like, how does like horror figures really solidify over time? Because we got the Freddys, the Jasons, the Michael Myers, the Chucky's. It's like, I wonder if that's something that you can see right then, that this figure is going to be something that's iconic for the, for the rest of the time in the horror verse. And like, I'm looking at M3GAN and I just don't see it, because that's another thing, is like the movie doesn't really do anything new, because I think the obvious comparison there really is Chucky. Like, you can't really compare it to anything else, but it never does anything that's so new to like kind of stand her out, other than like this is more of a technological side. And yet again, like I'm looking back to when they did it's like a soft reboot, I think, on TV with the Chucky show, and it's like I think they went more into the technological side of that in that show. So it's like, what sets M3GAN out besides like the dancing and stuff? Like, come on.
I think M3GAN was, well, I was going to say humorous, but you know what? Like Chucky's humorous. Chucky's actually pretty
That's
hilarious.
actually funny. Like that, I'd be like dying with Chucky, but like this, I don't know. It's very much so like, it's not even M3GAN that's funny. It's the writing that they like implement in every part that's more funny.
Did you see the Chucky film that came out, I want to say like 2-3 years ago? I think it may have been in 2020, just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Comparing these two films, and this is crazy. M3GAN had like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I would definitively say that the Child's Play remake was way better because it was funnier. Like it was R-rated, so they could have like more jokes in it. And there was one joke I'll never forget where one of the kids was teaching Chucky to say, "This is for Tupac." And so like somewhere in the course of the film, he kills somebody, and like right before the end, he's like, "This is for Tupac." And you know what? That's way fun, like way funnier than most of the things in the M3GAN film. You brought up, like, I think, which is in all honesty the funniest scene in the film, when she starts singing "I Am Titanium" put the girl to sleep because she's made out of titanium. I mean, it's it's cheesy, but it's PG-13 cheese.
I think we kind of hit the nail on the head there with the appeal. Is like, I think this movie is just more cheesy than anything, and like that's where it sort of camp kind of comes in, and like seeing those reviews now. And by the way, the sign back says Rotten Tomatoes gaslights me into seeing bad films. This is exactly what I mean. Like I'm tired. I'm not even tired, but it's just like, what is happening with Rotten Tomatoes in the culture where like we get these early sort of visions with Rotten Tomatoes, like this is like a 98, this is like awesome film. And then you go to see it, it's like, oh man, this was not what you guys were saying at all. Like, how did you guys find this so attractive? I've seen it a lot with like the Disney Plus Marvel shows, and like now M3GAN. It's like, now I really have to be critical. I need to find another medium. Like I heard Letterbox is like the thing that you see your thing. Is that not the one? Is that a meme or something?
No, I'm laughing because I kind of agree with you, because I'm looking at it right now, and with 231 critics reviews, it has a 95% certified fresh, and then a 79% audience score. But if you go to IMDb, which is also like a audience score aggregator, it has a 6.7, which puts it below something like Saw, for example, the first Saw film. And I think it's mind-blowing that out of 100 critics, 95 of them were like thumbs up, not too many complaints, more positives than not.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like, it's really weird, like how the discrepancy is so high between like the reviewers review versus like the general audience. It's like I don't know how that becomes so widely gapped. It's mind blowing to me.
Like, I kind of want to see the Rotten Tomatoes for the Golden Globe winner for Best Picture Drama, The Banshees of Inisherin, and compare it real quick. Okay, so M3GAN has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, which puts it 2% less than the Golden Globe winner for Best Comedy or Musical, The Banshees of Inisherin. Or Inisherin. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not Irish.
By the way, did you see that?
I started it, but I couldn't finish it. Hear me out. I'm going to finish it. The reason I could not is I had such a sour taste in my mouth, because you know how much I love Everything Everywhere All at Once. And everybody was like, oh, this movie's better. And it ended up beating Everything Everywhere All at Once. And like that bummed me out so much that I was projecting my negative feelings on this film. And I was like, you know what? Like, Colin Farrell of all people, I can't give him that disrespect. I can't put on this movie and say I'm in such a bad mood. I don't want to enjoy it. I want to hate it. Like, I'm not going to do that. And so I said, you know what? I'll turn it off for now, and I'll go back to it whenever I'm in a clearer headspace. And
that's good though.
Proper viewing it deserves.
That's fair. I like that. Because like sometimes like people really just do succumb to that, like just hate watch. You're just like, oh, I hate this. I'm just gonna shit on this the whole entire time. So I appreciate that. But like we're going off on tangent with Colin Farrell real quick. I watched, what movie was it? It's like based off like an animal. It was like with Colin Farrell, and it's like the lobster, right?
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's like because I was on this whole like it was summer of last year. I was like on this whole like grind to watch like these super artsy films just because I was bored or whatever. And it's like I think I'm solidified. I just hate artsy films. It's like whenever I see Colin Farrell in like these movies, I'm like, bro, this is gonna be like a 2 hour and 40 something minute slog fest of just like this super like out of world sort of story being. I'm just like, oh my god, I'm not watching this movie. But if you were gonna say if it's good, then I'd probably watch it. But I think you know what I mean, right?
Well, I think some art films are hits for me, some not so much. Like Harmony Korine is, I think, a good example for like the polarization for me. He did Spring Breakers, which was but he also did The Beach Bum, which I like will hold up as like one of the greatest like artsy films ever made.
I feel you.
So but, it can be polarizing.
Right. Going back to M3GAN a little bit, I did want to ask you a question. Now that we were on the topic a little bit, so maybe it's too early to say, but do you see in 10 years, are we going to be like, man, M3GAN, that's a classic? That's an icon right there?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, that's kind of what you made it sound like. Is like you were like, oh, this is like the new Chucky.
Well, I feel like if they make sequels, the sequels have to be better. There's no way. Like, they got to take M3GAN and turn M3GAN into an icon. And I feel like in a way there was a step towards it. The limitation again is the rating. You know, make a sequel, make it R-rated, and let M3GAN go ham. And I'm sure she could end up on, like, you know, considered a horror icon, no doubt in my mind, because, you know, I think the reason why ultimately it has such good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes is it was fun. Like, I didn't have a bad time, so I'm not gonna, you know, knock it and say, oh God, terrible waste of time. Like, my ticket money was well spent. And at the end of the day, like, what else can you ask for? But I will definitely take issue with like how overblown the reception of this really is. Like, it's almost like nobody else, you know, has the same criticisms as us. And we saw other people, and like they said, you know, kind of the same things as us, like, oh yeah, criticisms but fun. How does criticisms but fun translate to 95% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Right. And that's like the thing is like, I don't know, maybe I think because that's the thing, like for me, comedy is like, I mean, this is like a general rule I feel like anybody can agree with. Like, comedy and like in a sense fun is like really subjective, right? Like my comedy is like my sense of humor is just so like not really M3GAN. So like the fun factor that I'll get out of this movie isn't going to be the next person going to get out of it, the next person, right? So just like it's so hard to really pinpoint like if this movie's going to nail that fun factor. And it's like, I think if I didn't see this movie with a group of people, I would have a lot less fun and be a lot more like probably infuriated that I saw this movie. But seeing this with a group of people, now you bring it might even bring my point value a little bit. It is fun to like kind of dunk on it a little bit and just like be in that moment with people that, you know, also are laughing and having fun with it. So that's a 100% like a really good group movie now I think about it. That's where it gets points from me.
Do you feel like in 10 years there will be any scene or anything from this film that will be memorable to you? Like it will still be vivid in your head?
Honestly, this is going to be such an unhinged take, but I think the biggest cultural impact Megan's going to have is just a whole bunch of Rule 34 drawings of this poor character, man. Like, I'm sorry, but this is definitely where Megan is going to go.
No.
In 10 years, this is going to be like, yeah, this is people's like new fetish. Like the 13-year-old seeing this movie is like, this is Megan fetish now. Like,
oh God, that's horrible. That is so horrible.
Oh man.
Like, and the sad thing is I know there's so many like fringe elements on the internet where people are just unhinged and out of control and need to rein themselves in. So like there's probably validity to it.
1000%.
I'm never gonna check to see if it's out there.
Dude, like that is like caution taped out, man. Like, dude, like the Megan community is we'll have to check on them as the years progress because we can't let them get too unhinged. But one thing I did want to bring up before we do end up giving our final score is like something that I've seen with Megan in the new horror movies coming out. I feel like there's a new genre, and I'm not sure if I'm the one dubbing this, if someone else has dubbed this already. I would call this new sort of genre of horror. I think I dubbed it last minute horror, where like it feels very like they made this like maybe in like 3 months, you know, really just put it out there. And for some reason, these movies are really successful. Like Megan, Terrifier. For how I watched the first one because like, you told me not to watch it but I was just like, you know, I just need to see what it is. So I watched Terrifier 1 and 2. It's free, and that movie was complete garbage. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Wow, that was so bad. Like
it was incredibly bad.
Incredibly bad.
I can't believe we got a sequel. I can't believe we got a sequel.
And like the thing is too is like I said, is like these movies are relatively successful. And I'm just like, how is it getting all this success? And like, it's going to be a mystery for me for a minute. But like going to see like what else is coming out in that sort of last minute horror genre, which I'm giving these a little bit too much of like negative credit because I'm actually kind of looking forward to these movies a little bit. But like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and there's apparently by the same people making that movie, they're also making Neverland. What's it called? Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare. And like those movies I'm kind of excited for because like,
yeah,
like,
why not?
Right. It's like pre-established lore, right? We all know these characters. Let's see them in this horror environment. But like at the same time, the backdrop of it and the costumes give me that last minute horror sort of vibe. So like if there's any darlings coming out of that genre for me, it's probably those two movies right there. Because I'm actually really excited to see what that is. But I'm curious what to think about the last minute horror genre idea that maybe I coined up.
So I think maybe the time frame would be a little bit off. Like last minute horror, like, and you talked about like making it in 3 months. Like I feel like horror films are actually made relatively quick in comparison to like action blockbusters because there's not as much CGI.
Yeah.
And take the first Saw film, for example. I'm going to drop it again because I mentioned it earlier. That movie was filmed in like 2 weeks.
Really?
Yes, it was filmed in no time. I may be like undercutting it. It may have been a month, but I actually have 1 week in my head. I'm gonna fact check it. You know what?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna spill this disinformation
because like I really like look into what it really makes or really what it takes to make these movies. So like my guess was like 3 months was like on the short end, but like a week is crazy.
18 days. That was how long it took them to make Saw 1.
Wow.
I mean, know, right?
That makes me even more curious to like go back and like find people that's just like that saw 1 and like when they saw that, was that pun intended, when they saw that, was it like already like this, like that was really good, like this is something new here, like we really like this?
Oh, absolutely.
Was it cheesy?
Absolutely. Saw was amazing.
Okay.
Amazing. It like kind of in a way kickstarted like what's dubbed the torture porn like subgenre of horror. And I don't agree with that. I feel like that's a really crass way of putting films that have a certain style as well as the storytelling. Like Saw is about a guy that like, you know, attempts to make people like Jigsaw tries to reform people through torture. He's a bad guy. He's a villain. He's a little bit more of a complicated villain because he thinks he's doing the right thing by doing these things. Like he's actually helping like drug addicts or whatever, like come back and improve their lives.
Right.
So I feel like reducing it to torture porn when the first Saw like had a story and good characters is so unfair. But it did make things like, the Hostel films and all their sequels, The Collector and stuff like that, like just pop up overnight. So I think like what you're saying, like last second horror, they can kickstart stuff. I don't think they have to be like misses. I think some of them can be flat out hits, like huge hits.
And I think like now you said that, I think there's now is like a beauty to that, where it's like, if you can make something like that's so like cool that you can make something in such a short amount of time and it does blow up like this. And even if you don't think it's like necessarily like bad or good, I think there's some sort of value there to be like, hey, like we made this thing that because I'm pretty sure that the people who made this were like at least a little passionate about it. They thought it was like a good idea. Then they put it on screen and it did succeed. So, and it could spawn something that really is great. And we'll just have to see what that looks like. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on with M3GAN before we give it our final score here?
Let's talk about the AI element of it, because I feel like this is one that actually like, made it a step better than the more contemporary Child's Play films, which I think had AI elements. I feel like this one kind of had a social commentary with it. And some of it was like in your face annoying, like, the main character, I forget her name.
Gemma or something, or not, what's her name?
Yeah, Gemma.
Yeah.
She's talking about how she just wants this kid to play with the doll so she doesn't have to be like a parent. She's not the kid's biological parent, it's her niece, but she's raising him because of a tragedy that happens and the kid's orphaned. And people give her crap for that. And I feel like that was an in-your-face commentary on parents giving their kids the iPad and saying, like, leave me alone. Yeah. And that kind of annoyed me because parents deserve a break. Like, sorry, modern conveniences has allowed a kid to like go learn something on their iPad, like, play Yo Gabba Gabba or something, or learn a different language like Dora the Explorer, while their parents are like able to go sit down and watch a horror film and them not in the room. Like, I don't think that's the end of the world. So it's kind of irked by that element of the social commentary. And I also think it's a continuing trend in Hollywood to say AI end of humanity, like we're all dead, like it's going to kill us all. And I feel like it's kind of laid out like,
yeah.
So many mediums. It's in the Alien films, it's the main premise of the Terminator. And you know what, like show us a film where 2001: A Space Odyssey is another example with how show us a film where the AI like helps somebody out, like a chatbot actually does, instead of saying, oh, it's gonna all go sour immediately. Like I would appreciate that at this point, because it really is a very almost anti-AI film. Like like, would you consider it an anti-AI film?
Actually, yeah, because at points where like when M3GAN would use like the vocal AI, and that's like a very like present thing happening now with like vocal AI being able like to grab faces and use voices as IP, their voice as AI. It's like that's a very real thing, and like it sounds so. I mean, in a movie, like you could hear like that robotic tinge to it, but like, dude, 100%, like that's something that actually kind of like. It doesn't really scare me, but it's definitely something saying like, hey, like technology is going to this advanced part to where it's like it can mimic, human connection. And like you said, like that's sort of like the subliminal part of this movie is that if we do end up getting robots, which I'm pretty sure like we're pretty far off, but like I feel like we're gonna end up having something like a M3GAN or like AI like physical helper, to where like I feel like the social commentary is kind of warranted in a way, because like this is something that's it's a big unknown, right? We're scared of what's to come. And if we're already putting our kids in front of the iPad and the TV, which that is kind of boomer talk, where it's like, oh, you're just putting them in the iPad and like they're learning from you. It's like, well, and like you said, you bring up a really good point that these are pretty good tools for your kids to be on, but at the same time, like we are kind of sacrificing that social aspect. Like the kid in the movie really never had a friend outside of M3GAN. That's kind of sad that she kind of replaces technology with friends. And like like Discord nowadays like is replacing like friend groups, is like, or not replacing, but they're moving on to Discord rather than being outside and doing that sort of thing.
So I kind of think of that film that Will Smith did. I'm going to positively drop Will Smith since he got dragged in by Eddie
there
Murphy.
We go. Will Smith, later. We got you. Popcorncast got you, Will Smith.
We got you. But you remember that film I, Robot, right?
Yes, sir.
Like, I feel like that is more realistically how we would see something with AI and robots. And I know people say, oh, like, our future kids are going to be hanging out with like these AI friends in the metaverse, or robots will be our kids' best friends. And I feel like you can also take a positive thing from that. Like, humans are so empathetic that if something can mimic us, we will project a humanity onto it. Like, there's a whole film where Robin Williams, I forget what it was, I think it was the Bicentennial Man. He's like an AI android that ends up fighting for his rights to like the futuristic human Supreme Court to be recognized as like a living being. And I feel like that's, in a sense, like what human beings do. Like, if I had a robot that could communicate with me, why wouldn't I treat it like a living, breathing thing with feelings, emotions, even if it's not? And it's not a knock on like this evil thing that's here. It's a positive aspect of my humanity and our humanity at large. I know that's probably like a little bit of a deper thought from Megan.
The funny thing is, the funny thing here is that we're literally like, you're explaining the plot of like Blade Runner 2049 precisely. So just like, yeah, this is like, all right, Blade Runner is even more goated now than I thought. But yeah, it's like, I mean, that's true, but yet again at the same time, which I guess we're getting on a Blade Runner 2049 tangent here, but like, I think we could see like you said, I think humans are really good at showing empathy. They are implying empathy on a hourly force, right? Or just somebody else, even if it's not human. But like, I feel like that's definitely not everybody. And I feel like using that for, especially like AI, like humans, like I couldn't imagine how much the world would change if people got their hands on like a AI human. Like how, like, cause like, do you remember that scene from The Boys where like he paid homeboy, like his limbs could get cut off, but like they could regenerate, and they just paid him to just like hack at him. Like humans, like, sure, we're good at showing empathy, but I feel like we're also equally as good at showing how much destruction we can cause.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. So I wonder how, like, what do you think like a future role for humanity is in this? Like, do you think that we're going to take AIs and be like horrible? Because I remember like that Taybot, you know what I'm talking about? Microsoft released Tay Tweets, which is a Twitter AI bot that would learn from what was tweeted at it. And they had to cancel the project because within 1 week, people tweeted like so many anti-Semitic and like extremely terrible things. It like literally Tay Tweets turned into a Nazi within a week. And Microsoft was like, oh, we got to shut this down before like this gets even more negative press.
Wow.
So we'll see.
Right. And I kind of got shocked there a little bit, because I in a way I thought you were talking about like the progression of the M3GAN franchise. It will get to like a point of like sequels of films where like the world is just completely like robotic and like AI, and like how would M3GAN carry on as just like an AI in a world of other AI? It's just like a killer AI just killing each other. But we're getting to our final score here with M3GAN. Kayla, I want you to take this away. Give me your Popcocast review score for M3GAN. I'm so curious. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I came into this being like, I don't want to give it this. So, but like, now that you brought it up, and like how I think this movie is a really, I don't want to call it a solid movie, but like, it really shows its true form when you see it with a group of people. It's actually really fun when you see it with a group of people.
Absolutely.
But if you see it alone, you probably will not get that.
Yeah, you probably won't have a good time.
Not at all. So like, I was going to give it this. I was going to say this is a bad movie, but I saw it with a group of people. I was being social for the day, so I'll give it this. It was a really good time with some people that, we saw a good movie, or we saw a movie, and we had a good time with that movie. So that's all you can really ask for, man.
I think like with this, I just still want to stress that it's a fun film. Yeah. But I think within 6 months, somebody's gonna be like, "Did you see M3GAN this year?" I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I did."
Exactly. That's literally the whole thing with M3GAN. That's the outcome of M3GAN when we see this. When we hit December, we're gonna be like, "Oh right, M3GAN was a thing." We're gonna put that on our top 5 moments of 2023. So, but yeah, guys, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you guys coming for this M3GAN review. Look out for all the content coming in 2023, because we are going to be popping out content like crazy.
We'll
Yeah,
be busy
guys.
these next few months.
Exactly, man. April. Oh man, I cannot wait. But yeah, guys, stay tuned to the Pop Cult Cast. See you next time.